Everyone in the galaxy thinks we humans are strange, foolish. But truth be told, they think our biggest weakness is our heart. Meet Commander Marcus. Marcus was no high-born noble of the Central Vanguard fleets. Burned skin mapped his jawline from a plasma breach on the outer rim. Dark, hollow craters had under his eyes from holding the front line for 4 consecutive days without reinforcement. His hands always, well, they shook a little whenever he unbuckled his empty rifle magazine. He had just survived a brutal ambush on a dead world, and now he was standing inside the dark, oppressive command bridge of a massive dreadnought. He wasn't there as a conqueror. He was there as a prisoner. The elite alien commanders in the gallery stood in absolute silence, keeping a terrified distance from the center platform. Their minds were small. They only saw a death sentence. To them, the being standing on that platform was a planetary storm that consumed entire solar systems. Standing right in front of Marcus was warlord Vextia. Across the stars, she was known by a single title, the Terror of Galaxies. Her towering body was covered in deep, crimson scales that scraped together like rusted metal whenever she moved, and a wet, rhythmic clicking echoed from her mandibles. Her 4 eyes stared out like empty, bottomless pits, radiating enough kinetic pressure to bend steel. She had crushed empires and executed entire high councils without blinking. She stepped closer to Marcus, her shadow completely engulfing his small frame. She tilted her massive, horned head, her voice booming through the metallic rafters like thunder. The Terror of Galaxies, and the woman I want. She asked who she was to me, repeating the words her spies had intercepted from his private comm logs. She expected this human to collapse. She expected him to deny it, weep for mercy, or drop to his knees in absolute horror. The hidden royal guard behind the pillars waited for the execution blow. They thought Marcus would break. They thought his human heart would fail under her terrifying gaze. But then, Marcus did something that turned the entire command bridge dead cold. He didn't run. He didn't lower his head. Instead, he unclasped his cracked helmet, let it drop to the floor with a loud metallic clang, and stepped right up into a personal space. His shaking hand became, suddenly, perfectly still. He wiped a streak of dark grease from his forehead, took a ragged, burning breath, and looked her straight in her 4 dark eyes. He didn't look at her like an unstoppable monster. He looked at her like a person who had spent her whole life surrounded by cowards. He looked up at the towering warlord and said, "Your Majesty, your enemies call you a monster because they are terrified of your power. They count your fleets and run away. But us? We don't look at the universe through math equations. Humans don't bow to fear. We fight for the soul. And when I look at you, I don't just see the fire burning down galaxies. I see a warrior who carries the weight of the stars on her shoulders. You're the fiercest force in this universe, and you're exactly the woman I want." He stood his ground, his chest heaving, completely ignoring the dozens of plasma spears instantly pointing at his back. Alien logic shattered right there on the floor. Vextia's mandibles went completely still. Her crimson scales stopped rippling with rage. The air pressure in the room suddenly returned to normal. For 3,000 years, every species she had ever summoned brought tributes, political treaties, or crawled in absolute terror. No one had ever just stood before her throne with raw, unbroken honesty, looking past her terrifying armor to demand her heart. Later, the galaxy learned that Marcus's words didn't seal his doom. They stopped a galactic conquest. The warlord didn't execute him. She dismissed her guards and lowered her blade, realizing that for the first time in her long life, she had found someone whose spirit was as unbreakable as her own. The aliens still sit in their high towers, texting, trying to find the strategic logic behind why the deadliest conqueror in history halted an invasion over a grunt's confession. But truth is, humans are just built different. The night is getting late. So, what do you think? We humans really are strange, aren't we?